As you know, I'm standing in the Lewisham East parliamentary by-election. I've said this before, but I will say it again. It just seemed so apt, so poetic, so appropriate that the first parliamentary by-election to happen after we gained full party status and everything was in order was Lewisham East. I've stood in Lewisham East. I've stood in Lewisham East officially once in 2015 for UKIP. Came third, beat all the small parties. And I see that Ladbrokes actually has us ahead of UKIP in their bets. I would put us ahead of the Lib Dems and the Greens as well. But let's not boast until we can. But we can boast because in the local elections, that's exactly what we did. But I'm very excited about this. It's, as a friend and an activist in the party said to me the other day, Lewisham East just keeps coming back to you. And it does. So I'm going to give it my all. And I was in Loughton last night, and I'll say again to you what I said to them. I'm not going to come to Swindon and talk about Lewisham. But I am going to talk about a little bit about the national picture and why a parliamentary seat for this party would be incredible. We're going into this, and I'm going to be criticised for saying that. We're going into this to offer some real different opposition to the Labour Party. And I think the public is ready to hear that real different opposition to the Labour Party. I did a brief webcast this morning about some of the candidates that the Labour Party is putting forward. And of course, it's not only an all-women shortlist, but an all-black and ethnic minority women shortlist. So once again, the Labour Party says that whites aren't welcome. It's a racist statement. It's a racist statement. When it was happening in apartheid South Africa, it was racism when it was in reverse. Blacks not welcome. It's the same as whites not welcome. We need to talk about this. We need to talk about this stuff. This is serious stuff, and we need to talk about it. And we need to use, to my mind, this very exciting, very interesting parliamentary by-election, which is going to get a lot of media attention. It's already getting a lot of media attention. Its shortlist is being imposed from above, much to the annoyance of local activists in Lewisham. But 3 of the 4, we're now down to a high imposed shortlist of 4. 3 of those 4 are at least associated with the Lewisham Islamic Centre. And I'll take this time to address that particular issue. The Lewisham Islamic Centre is one of the most controversial centres in the UK. It is closely linked with the killers of Lee Rigby. And its imam is not known for his moderation, to we say. So we have, I think, a duty. I honestly think we have a duty. This is a serious, serious issue. And even if people tell us, well, you're a one-issue this, or you keep going on about it that, we mustn't run from what is, for us as a party, probably one of our strongest selling points. And that is that we are going to tell the truth about the Islam issue and the issues that surround Islam. And I get people all the time telling me, as I said today in the video, I don't actually talk about Islam that much. I don't actually talk about it that much. But when I go to events, it's almost always the first thing people ask me about. But because I am in this Lewisham by-election and it's a safe Labour seat, and 3 of the 4 candidates within the party to take the candidacy for that safe Labour seat, 3 of the 4 of them are linked with an extremist mosque, then I think we need to say something. And even if we are told, well, you always bang on about Islam, well, we don't, but at this point, actually, yes, it's right for us to say something. This is serious. And there's a serious, serious problem with Labour and Islam anyway. Extreme people, even Trojan horse governors are now campaigning for the Labour Party. There's a real infiltration, and it's been going on for years, of Labour, of extremist Islam into the Labour Party. And I think we're getting somewhere close to a pinnacle for that, because, one of the two parties that can form a government in this country is seen as a vehicle by the most extreme, the most jihad, the most obvious jihadists in the country are now seeing the Labour Party as a vehicle. I think that's important. I think that's something that needs to be pointed out. On other issues, of course, Labour, just to stay on Lewisham East briefly, it's a Labour stronghold, and it's steeped in poverty. Steeped in poverty. And why is it that Labour strongholds are so often steeped in poverty? Why is it that Labour strongholds have had excessive and disproportionate child grooming incidents in their areas? Why is that? Why is it that Labour areas keep failing? Why is it that people have been, as someone put out on Twitter the other day, poor people have been voting for Labour for 90 years and yet they're still poor? But that's the point. That's the point. Labour thrives on being poor. It thrives on poor people's vote. And it's not some crazy conspiracy thing. It's just an observation of how that ideology in general survives. And we're seeing a Labour Party that's going very, very quickly towards the far left, the extreme left. And it's one that is wedding itself to communist ideology, quite frankly, to failed economic theory, and not really concerning itself with the people who are living under its jurisdiction, the people who are living in poverty, the people they're supposed to be helping. We see all over the country, and Swindon is no different. Crime is going up in Swindon. And the Wiltshire force is one of the most deprived in the country. In fact, in 2016, it was the most under-resourced police force in the country. So where is the common sense, the getting the basics right politics? What we have from Labour, particularly, and the Tories are no different, what we have from Labour is ideology. They sit around in their conference rooms and they're debating in their press conferences, and they talk about politics from an abstract, and they completely forget about the human lives that are dependent upon the decisions they make. And all parties have forgotten about this. There is really no difference between Labour and the Tories on the major matters today. There are really no difference. One of them, of course, the big one, is immigration. Because upon immigration rests everything else. We can only plan the NHS, we can only plan housing, we can only plan crime. Everything depends on how many people. How can you possibly plan when you don't know how many people you're going to have? So immigration is a national government responsibility, and one that local governments are paying for their incompetence in. Of course, the incompetence goes across the board. But let's just look at the Tories for a minute. The Home Secretary, the new Home Secretary, Sajid Javid, he took only hours after he was appointed Home Secretary, after the Windrush scandal. And Theresa May, in my mind, or to my mind, made a politically correct decision, because the Windrush scandal, which brought down Amber Rudd, was steeped in political correctness and the racism. She had to do what she could to show that she wasn't a racist, quite frankly. And she appointed Sajid Javid as the Home Secretary, a huge mistake to my mind, because only hours after he was appointed, he was in the national press undermining the already very weak response from Theresa May on illegal immigration. She had said it should be a hostile environment for illegal immigrants. And within hours of taking charge of the Home Office, he disputed and undermined that and said it was the wrong kind of language, etc. So what she was saying is it should be difficult to be an illegal immigrant in the UK. That was what she was saying. That was what she meant by a hostile environment. If you're a legal immigrant in the UK, you can't find life easy. There must be difficulties. Within hours of taking office at the Home Office, the new Home Secretary said that was actually not the case. And what he's saying must be, therefore, that it should be easy to be an illegal immigrant in the UK. It should be a welcoming environment for an illegal immigrant in the UK. And this comes not long after another senior government minister, the Foreign Secretary, Boris Johnson, said that there should be an amnesty for illegal immigrants. So this is the Conservative Party. This is the Conservative Party. And if you look on the other side, and who is the alternative? The Labour Party. As Home Secretary, we have either Sajid Javid, weak on immigration, or Diane Abbott. Are you happy? Are you happy with those options? But that's what we've got. And frankly, that's what we've had for years. There's been no real difference between Labour and the Tories on immigration, on multiculturalism, on the major fundamental issues that affect what kind of Britain your children and grandchildren will live in. These are not economic issues. We all know the economy matters. Of course it matters. It's what puts the food on our tables. Of course it matters. But it's not what drives the emotion of people. It's not what you know, we talk about the Brexit debate is all about trade deals. And that's all you hear from UKIP, from the press. It's all about trade deals. Of course, trade deals are important. And of course, I want the best trade deal we can get. But it's not going to stir the emotion of the people to get us out of the European Union. These negotiations are going to go on forever. They're going to go on forever. The only thing that will get us out of the European Union is A, public opinion, and B, public opinion to bring down the European Union altogether. That is the only thing, that is the only way forward at this point. We can see a growing anti-EU sentiment across Europe. That's what's going to get us out of it. And that's where we need to focus. And that's where we need to put all our energy. And I just don't see that talking about trade deals is going to really inspire people to get up and bring down the European Union. I don't see it. I think we need to talk about the European Union very differently. We need to talk about the issues that made people vote to get out of the EU in the first place, and one of them is immigration. And people have gone quiet on immigration. The political class doesn't talk about immigration anymore. But it's still there, and it's still very much a key issue for people. And it's not about hate. It's not about racism. It's about common sense. It's about love of one's own country as well, and love of one's own town and village and where they grew up. You see, and I don't care what people call me for this. They can call me a far right, whatever they want. I mean it. You see towns and villages all across this country where people have lived for generations, where they've known and loved. And this is what we need to get out there. This is what we need to talk to people about, to talk about the lives of their children and their grandchildren and their own lives. I love Europe. I love our society. I want Europe to be a when I think about our Brexit policy, I want a post-EU Europe in mind. Not a post-Brexit, but post-EU. Get rid of the whole thing. Let's get Europe back. 20 years ago, I traveled around Germany. I lived in Germany for about 6 months or so. And I took that time and I traveled around all of the major German cities. I was 19 or so at the time. I did it on my own. And I look at Germany now. I look at Germany now, and I think, if I was a 19-year-old white European woman now, I would not travel around Germany on my own. I wouldn't do it now. And that's less than 20 years later. That is the profound change that has happened. Because a 19-year-old woman is not now safe to travel around Germany on her own. That's the profound change that has happened on our continent in simply a generation's time. Now, I think we have every right, and I think we have a duty, in fact, to object to this, to object to this. I am tired, really sick and tired of this anti-us, anti-white, anti-European sentiment. I don't hate anybody. People who want to come here and make a life for themselves and contribute and be a part of things, I welcome you. If you love our country, then then you're with me. If you love Britain, you're with me. I don't care what colour you are, if you love our country, you're with me. But I will not have people, I will not have the European majority, and yes, white, the white European majority, bullied like this, told there are too many white people here, too many white people on that board, too many white people in that room, too many white applicants for this job. This is not something we can accept, and it's not right, it's not moral. And if anyone said there were too many black people in this room, we would rightly object, and the same applies in reverse. And we're tired of this. We're tired of this. And I want us, and I'm not going to get drawn into this media thing. I'm not going to be afraid of the media. The media, if the media want to portray me as some sort of Nazi, let them. They've done it already. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Our real audience are the ordinary majority out there, and I know they agree. I know they agree. Do you think they agree? Yes. We're not saying anything horrible. We're not saying anything unreasonable. We're just saying that this is what's going on is ridiculous. It's ridiculous. We're giving billions of pounds to faraway countries while NHS nurses survive on food banks. This is ridiculous. It's obscene. It's obscene. We're decimating our police force while violent crime goes through the roof. It's obscene. All we have to do is vote differently. I keep saying it, but it's true. It's true. I hear it all the time. You can't possibly succeed under the first past the post system. It's gonna, the media will wear you down. You'll be called a racist. You'll be called far right. It's all happened already. And yet how old are we? October, what is it, May? 9 months, 8 months? A month or so ago, we came in local elections above in one seat or another, above every established small party in this country. We beat the Liberal Democrats, we beat UKIP, we beat the Greens, in our first time out, only weeks after receiving registration. And there's a reason for that. People get it, what we're saying. The message is clear. We are here for the Britain that we love, the Britain that we know, or the Britain that we knew perhaps 20 years ago, the Britain that has the fantastic sense of humour, the history, the heritage, the freedoms that Britain has injected into the world. But it's culture, it's daily life, it's pubs, it's atmosphere, just what makes Britain, Britain. Let's save it. Let's save it. Let's make it ours and save it. And that's what I really want to do. And I think that the loony left, which hates me and hates us, and hate is the right word, and I use the word hate for a reason, because that is what they are. That's what they feel for us, is hate. They spend their lives talking about hope, not hate, but their attitude towards us is beyond hate. You'll see it, they want us out of work, they want us starving. They hate us, but that's an aside. But that aside, I have never been more optimistic about the future of this country. And it's not because I think I'm fantastic, it's because of the people who are coming. The message is clear. People are responding to it. We're getting people from all kinds of political backgrounds, from left and right, from all parties. And that's exactly what I wanted us to do. And that's exactly what I knew we would do, because we have a fair, common sense reflection of the decent majority of this country. That is what our policies will be. That is what our manifesto will be, a reflection of the majority, the decent majority of this country. I know we're running a bit short on time, so I shall take some questions, but I'll leave it there, and thank you very much for listening to me.